Ema Korban Apollo, Vanachnu, Kamnu, Vanaseda, Adonai Yeshua, Melech Yaleinu, V'yem Korenu. Thank you. Um, So the last thing we learned, good morning, everybody. Thank you again for all your brachas. I read all the beautiful messages. Thank you. And I'm a Baruch Mizbarich. Last week's parsha was the parsha where Hashem promises, whoever blesses, He Himself, Hashem Himself will bless you. So all the brachas He gave should be fulfilled for you, plus much more. So we are on page 71. Is really in essence Hashem, because nothing can exist without Hashem. But the question is, there is one thing, and that is that the way we perceive the world, the way we perceive it, we do perceive it as something separate. And that's also real, because Hashem created it that way, that we should feel it that way. So wouldn't it mean that to some extent Hashem's light is blocked in this world, not completely the way it is? There's something blocking the light, and that is this concealment that Hashem created. True, it's created by Hashem, but it's a concealment. So therefore, the light of Hashem is in some ways blocked. So what he added in the explanation on page 69, page 70, page 69, 70. And another Maimon, this is pages and pages and pages and pages explaining it. But here it's brief. And that is that it's not chas v'sholom that in Hashem there are two tracks, or two powers. One is the power to reveal godliness, and one is to conceal. And then we would think, if that's the case, good morning, then the concealment blocks this godly light that's supposed to be revealed, even though it's coming from Hashem, but still blocks it to some extent. So he explained that even this power to conceal is really nothing separate. That in itself is Hashem's infinite light. It's not that Hashem has a light which is infinite and shines infinitely. Then there's another light that blocks it, but the blocking is an extension of His infinite light. As we explained last week, that if we were to say chas v'sholom, that there are two aspects in Hashem, or 2 points in Hashem, or 2 tracks within Hashem, one to reveal, one to conceal, that would mean, by definition, that Hashem is not absolute one. That there's some sort of a pluralism in Hashem, which is against the basic belief Hashem Echad, Hashem is one. Not only that He's one versus others, but He Himself is one absolute entity, not made up of parts. So he explained that the power to conceal, the power to limit, the power to make things in a limited way is an expression finite as well. And then we added the last 2 lines on page 71, that not only the power to limit is an extension and expression of Hashem's unlimitedness, but actually it's actually deeper within Hashem's infinite power, more than when Hashem reveals things in an infinite way. In other words, when Hashem reveals his light in an infinite way, no limitations. I would think, okay, they're both from Hashem, they're both from the same source, but the infinite is still greater than the finite. So once we understand that the finite is really an expression of Hashem's infinity, then we can realize that when Hashem does something in a finite way, it's more infinite than infinite. Because generally speaking, infinite also has a limitation. The limitation is that it's infinite, not finite. So Hashem is, I remember we said, this is what the Goyim argue, that Hashem is so infinite that he doesn't really pay attention to what's happening in this physical world, what's happening, what people are doing, what they do, what they don't do. On the contrary, that's like a disgrace. It's an insult to Hashem to say that he, who is so infinite, is dealing with things that are so small and finite. And we say that Hashem is so infinite that infinite and finite are both the same. So even the things that are finite and are limited, it's an expression of his infinity. And the way they understand Hashem as infinite is a limited way. He's infinite, but not finite. And the way we understand Hashem infinite means absolute infinity, and he's not limited in any way. So basically, even things that are finite, even things that conceal godliness, that too is an expression of Hashem's infinity. It's something which, for the first time you hear it, it's a little bit hard to relate to, but it'll come up more. And as we go along, hopefully it'll be easier to digest. Page 73. It's actually a version of a pasuk, and it became a very famous Hasidic nigun. Which means, indeed, Hashem, you hide yourself. When something goes wrong, it's not something happening outside of Hashem, but it's Hashem hiding. Pirush. But the deeper meaning of these words are, Atahu b'chinas gilui l'noichach. When you say, what is the difference between saying Ata, like Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu, or you say Hashem? The difference is when you say Ata, that means you're talking to the person face to face. Just like in English, if you say, you told me this and this, if I'm using the word you, that means I'm facing the person. If I say they told me this and this, he told me this and this, or she told me this and this, that means that I'm not facing the person, it's a third person. I'm talking to one person about a third person. So when you say Ata, that means Hashem as he is, and as if I'm facing him, Hashem in a revealed way. And yet, what do we conclude? Mistatar, he hides. That means to say, the same Ata, the same you that's there when your presence is revealed and I'm facing you openly, it's the same you and the same infinite presence of Hashem. Mistata when Hashem hides. That's what the words mean. Atahu kel mistata. We're not just saying a general statement that Hashem is also responsible for the things which conceal godliness, but what we're saying that the same essence of Hashem that's revealed when there's revealed godliness, and that's the infinite light of Hashem that shines without being blocked, that same light is the source of things that happen that block his presence. It's an extension of an expression of his infinite light. Once we understand this properly, what do we conclude? That lo yesh klal shum davar zulosem. There's nothing that exists outside of Hashem. He called advarim agashmi, all the physical things that exist. Sheneshavu heim elikus mamash. They're all godliness. They're all b'chinas dvar havaya mahava mekayim. The real essence and the real identity is the words of Hashem that sustained it, that created every moment. That's their true identity. And again, even the fact that they're hidden is also part of that. And in fact, it says in Tanya, in the second volume of Tanya, which is called Shar Yichud V'Amunah, chapter 3. That's the place where he explains this concept a little bit in a more elaborate way. Ilmole nitna rishus la'ayin liris. If Hashem would have given permission, which means if Hashem would have enabled our physical eyes to see, ulahasig esachayis v'haruchni shebachol nivra, if we were able to see visually the life force and the ruchnius that is found in every single creation, that's flowing in it from the mouth of Hashem and the breath of Hashem, and that sustains it. If we were to see that, we wouldn't see the physical the way we see it now. Because the physical is totally bottled to its source. As we explained, because without the source, without the spiritual, it's ayin v'efes mamish, it's absolute nothing. It would be like just before the world was created. So imagine if we would be able to see this visually, what we're learning about. You look at a thing that's physical, and you can actually visually see how it's being created by Hashem, just like we see things in the physical realm. That you see that this is really coming from something else. I guess a little bit the difference between the way a child would look at puppets or an adult. When a child looks at puppets, he thinks that they're really talking, and they're laughing, and they're getting angry, and getting upset. And an adult, hopefully, when he sees somebody using puppets, realizes that it's the person that's playing all these games, and this is nothing. This is just looks like that, but it's not real. So imagine if Hashem would allow us to see. Of course, we'd have to be in a different level to see openly how He recreates everything in creation every second, mamish. Then we wouldn't see the creation the way we see it. We would see everything as part of Hashem's life. So, of course, we can't understand and we can't even imagine what we would see, how we would see it. But basically, what we do know is we would see everything in the physical world, not the way we see it now, as a separate, independent entity of Hashem, but we would see everything that this is Hashem sustaining and creating constantly this object. The meaning of the Alter Rebbe's words, when he says it's bottled b'metzias mamish, which means it's clearly or explicitly bottled b'metzias. In Enoida, it's known that bittul b'metzias, this level which is described as bittul b'metzias, ukinyam hashakasa b'moshe v'nachnu mo. So bittul shum shbli shum metzias mohus. There are two terms here that's related to this point. I don't see the other one here, but I think in the list of terms in the back, I put it down. So let's take a look at the words. Should have really gone back here as we were going along in the mimer. Okay. I have to try to have a good memory now. Interesting. I don't see it here. So this is a term. This we find this a lot in a lot of my marim. It could be applied in many different ways. So what is bittul b'metzias? What?
You have just the word Mitzias.
Mitzias, right. But this is the way it goes. Bittul b'metzias. And the other one is bittul hayesh. What is the difference? Bittul yesh means the yesh, whatever is there is batul. Bittul metzius means it's totally batul. So again, it could be applied in many different ways, but let me give an example of something on a practical level. We say a person is batul to Hashem, and he's batul to Hashem's will. This could be two ways. One way is that I have a desire to do something which is not according to Torah, but I have a desire to do it, but I'll never do it because I have submitted myself to Hashem, and whatever Hashem wants, that's what I do. So I'm not going to do it. That means I do have a desire, and I'm drawn to do something which is not what Hashem wants, but I will not do it because I listen to Hashem, not to what I want. Bittul b'metzius means that I refine myself, and I just transform myself to the point that my desire is only for those things that Hashem wants. Things that Hashem don't want, I don't even have a desire for that. That's a practical difference between bittul b'metzius and bittul hayesh. There's some things we can understand it, some things it's a little bit hard to imagine. But just like begashmius, there are certain things that the average person, even if you're not a tzaddik, you don't have a desire to actually do something. You have to control yourself from, God forbid, murdering somebody. The average person doesn't have that kind of desire. So bittul yesh is a person that's the way they feel about every aspect of Torah mitzvahs. When it comes to thought, speech, action, davening, learning. It's not that I want to stop doing it, or I want to do less, or I don't want to give tzedakah, but I push myself. If it's Hashem's will, I'm so connected to Hashem. Whatever Hashem wants, that's what I want. That's called bittul b'metzius. So, for example, sometimes we use the difference between angels and humans. Humans are bittul hayesh in general, because we're physical, we have a physical body, and I have an nefesh Bahamas. As a result of that, we have other interests, and yet, even if we work on ourselves and we refine ourselves and we transform ourselves, it's bittul hayesh. Angels are created in such a way they have no other desire; they are just godly from beginning to end, and all they want is to be Hashem's messengers to do what Hashem wants. That's bittul b'metzius. So I guess generally speaking, when you look at the world, you can also look at it two ways. One way is there is a world, and the way most people, I think, that are from people believe in Hashem, but are not so familiar with the way Hasidus looks at the world, will tell you that there is a world, there are laws of nature, and the world has a certain way of running and functioning, but Hashem is in charge. He can change things, he can do things the way he wants, he can control it. He can do things not according to nature, but the running of the world has its sort of own, somewhat of an independent track. It just, things happen. Trees grow when you plant a seed. This and this makes the wind blow. This and this makes hot weather. This makes cold weather. This will cause waves. This will cause a tsunami. Everything has an explanation, al pi teva, why there'll be a volcano, why there'll be a earthquake, and why it's hot and why it's cold and why there'll be a storm, the way all the scientists explain all these things. But a Yid believes that Hashem is able to control all that. That means, yes, there is a world, and the world has somewhat of its own independent identity, but Hashem is higher, he's superior, he's in control. Bittul b'metzius means that we don't even recognize that the world has any kind of existence in its own. Even the mere fact that it exists is only because Hashem recreates it every second. That's the term bittul b'metzius. So this is Moshe Rabbeinu's level. But Moshe Rabbeinu, it says, the Nachnu Mo, when the Yidden were arguing against him and telling him we don't have meat, or we don't have this, we don't have that, he said, who are we, meaning me and Aaron, that you should go against us? Everything that's happening is Hashem. We're just a transparent sort of conduit through which Hashem is doing things. So ma, the word ma, mem hey, means what are we? Like there's nothing there. Ubitul b'mishum b'li shum etzius muhus. Okinyan b'li mash niski b'sefer yitzira. So the word ma is similar to the Hebrew word muhus. Muhus means identity, an essence, or personality. We use it that way a lot in Chassidus. So when you say we are, there is no ma, means there's nothing there. There's no identity there. Page 75. Even the fact, like we said before, that the world is perceived as something, even that part that we perceive it as something, that Hashem is blocking the truth, and it looks like it's something, even that is from Hashem. It's not like something else is blocking the truth. That's coming from Hashem, is infinite light, the ability to block his own light. If you look into it properly, you will see that this is also godly and part of God, Hashem's light. The nimtza. So all this leads to the conclusion, the more a person would think about this and think about this deeply and understand it fully, you would see that nothing exists. Everything that exists is just Hashem giving it life, Hashem recreating it. Kol ha-netzolim, everything in Atzilus. Kol ha-nevroyim, everything in Bria. V'ha-noitzrim, everything in Yitzira. V'ha-nasim, everything in Asiya. Everything in all the worlds. Hashem alone is their real source of existence. He is their source that sustains them. He is the source that creates them. Nothing else exists besides Hashem. Based on this, we can understand now we understand the deeper meaning of echad, that it's a mitzvah, not just to believe in the existence of Hashem, but to believe in the oneness of Hashem, that Hashem is one. What does it mean that he's one? That he and the world are one, that the world is not a separate entity from Hashem. And this is hinted in the word echad, like you said before. Agam shenivru zayin rikim. Before Hashem created the world, of course, he was one. Nothing else existed. But once he created a world, which are the seven heavens, the aretz and the earth, that's 8, and dalad ruchas ha'olam, and the 4 directions of north, south, east, and west. So we have the 6 directions of north, south, east, west, up and down. So now that Hashem created a world, true, he's the one that created it, but he created it. No, even after the creation, being that they can't exist on their own at all, and they're only there because Hashem constantly recreates them. Nothing else exists outside of Hashem. And this is understood. Now we can understand and answer the question he asked before. Why does it say Hashem Echad? Wouldn't it be more appropriate to say Hashem Yachid? Because Yachid means he's the only one. And Echad means he's one. When you say one, that leaves room for number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. When you say the only one, that excludes everything else. So this is the answer. Im hayanema yachid, hayanishma shalakusa yachid umiyuchid. Avla nivra b'sheisim ebreshis u'metzias. That would sort of imply Hashem is one, but nevertheless, when it came to the 6 days of creation, he created a world which he himself created, and now there's also a world. Echad, when we say echad, marumas, that's saying that Hagam shenivra elam, that his oneness continues even after creating the world, after creating the 7 heavens, after creating the earth and the 4 directions. Everything is bottled with tachlis, the pchinas of aleph, aluf, shalolam. Everything is bottled to the first letter in the world, which is the aleph, Hashem, the master of the universe. So that's, if we would say that Hashem, in a sense, didn't really create the world, and you're saying Hashem is one, but you're not recognizing, acknowledging that there's a creation. When you say that Hashem created a world, and this world is a real existence, and at the same time, it's nothing more than Hashem Himself, that's something which is much more amazing and phenomenal than saying that there's nothing else that exists besides Hashem. There's a world that exists, and in spite of that, there's nothing else besides Hashem. The way this comes down practically is, maybe one of these examples would be, why would it be wrong if a person, Chas v'Shalom, is not well? Instead of going to a doctor, spending money, wasting your time in the waiting room, and everything else that goes along with it, I just say I trust in Hashem, and I believe in Hashem. He's the source. So why even bother go to a doctor? The answer is Hashem said you should go to a doctor, do the natural order. Why?
It's still all.
What?
Still all Hashem, like.
Right, but wouldn't it be better if I just believe in Hashem, I don't even go to the doctor?
You have to create a keli.
I understand, but that's my question. Why do we have to?
That'd be like saying doctor separate from Hashem, but Hashem will heal you if you sit and trust in him, but if the doctor heals you with something else, it's like science, you know what I mean?
Right. If you think of it, that's a much greater challenge than just not going to the doctor. But I went to the doctor and say, okay, nothing exists, just Hashem exists. That's it. Going to the doctor means you go to a doctor, you do what's according to nature, you follow his instructions, you take the medication, and at the same time you believe that it has nothing to do with you getting well. It's the Eibishter that makes you well. And that's like saying there is a world, but everything in the world is Hashem. You know, the Rebbe, when he speaks about Eretz Yisrael, always speaks about Hashem is watching over us and Hashem is in charge, and therefore we should be learning and davening and giving tzedakah. The same Rebbe is the one that storms the world. Don't give away 1 inch. That's gonna encourage the enemies to want more. You have to have a strong army. You have to protect the borders. All these things. How do the two things go together? Here he's screaming that everything is Hashem, and here he's screaming, do everything you can to have the most updated weapons, and that you do everything in Derech HaTeva, because if you do this, the Arabs will do that. That's irrelevant. The main thing is just daven, learn, and trust in Hashem. So that's this combination and this merging of the two things is the ultimate expression that is everything is Hashem. We do things according to Teva, we follow the order of nature, and at the same time we believe that it's all from Hashem. There's a famous sikh that ever said this numerous times, that the Gemara quotes a certain pasuk and says that this pasuk alludes to the 6 volumes of Mishnayos. We know there are 6 volumes in the Oral Torah, in the original Mishnayos. One is Zroyim, which are the laws of agricultural laws about fields. One is laws about damage, monetary issues. One is about marriage and divorce and relationships. One is about sacrifices. One is about purity and impurity. And each word in the pasuk alludes to one of these things. There's a word in the pasuk, emunah, which means faith. So the Gemara says that is alluding to Zroyim. Zroyim is agriculture. Why? Because a yid puts a seed in the ground and has faith in Hashem that things will grow. And of all things, that's really how it works. I put a seed in the ground and have faith that it'll grow. Everybody puts seeds in the ground, and when we put seeds in the ground, it grows, it's natural. So the answer is, but not by a yid. When a yid puts seeds in the ground, he's saying, I'm doing what's required to done al pi teva. If you want the field to produce produce, you have to put seeds in the ground. But I believe that the seed is from Hashem, the ground is from Hashem, and the fact that the seed will make things grow is from Hashem, even though this is part of the nature. In other words, the most natural things, I believe that this is all from Hashem. So that's a much deeper way of understanding that Hashem and the world are one than they're just saying, I don't have to deal with the world, it's just Hashem. I'm just translating this idea here, which is a philosophical, sort of an abstract concept. If you translate it in practical terms, that's the difference. If a person will say, I don't need to do anything, I just trust in Hashem, I'm not even going to go on a job interview. It's very uncomfortable, sometimes embarrassing. I'm just going to daven to Hashem, give tzedakah, and ask him to send me money. And if I really believe in Hashem, it should work. No, Hashem said you have to go on a job interview. Not only that, someone will also tell you should also get guidance, what to do in a job interview, how to write your resume, and how to present yourself, what you should say, what you shouldn't say. Once ask somebody in an interview, are you responsible in your work? So I'm very responsible. The last 10 jobs that I had, I paid for everything that I broke and I made mistakes. So some things when you go in an interview, you're not supposed to say. You need a little bit of guidance, what to say, what not to say, how to present yourself in order to get the job. What do I need in that book? I trust in Hashem. Not only that, if you need someone is chas v'shalom sick in a way that they need a bigger doctor, you have to look for the bigger doctor. What's the difference? It's a kelim derech hateva, any doctor. No. If api teva you need something more, you go, which means according to nature, that's what you need to do. Or to say with parnasa. If a person says, listen, I need X amount of money to live. I'm going to look for any job because if Hashem wants to give parnasa, all I need to do is make a keli, so I'll take a keli. And the keli is I'm going to have a job that brings in 50% of what I need to live. But Hashem is, he'll make things happen. No, you have to do things al pi teva to calculate how much money I need for me to live. And then I have to find a job that could provide that amount of money. Otherwise, I'm not doing the right thing al pi teva. This is the hardest part. Because on one hand, you're taking nature and the laws of nature in account. And on the other hand, you're not taking them in account. You're trusting that it's all Hashem. Where will be the difference? Is it just in the head, or that's also a practical difference? What would be the practical difference if a person believes everything's from Hashem and you have to make a keli, or they believe that there is a natural, orderly things happen, but I believe that Hashem is in charge. If a person believes that nature is really part of what makes things happen, then let's say they see there's a situation that if I'm going to stick to my principles of Torah mitzvahs, I'm going to lose the job. They might, because of that, compromise on their Yiddishkeit. Because they say to themselves, there's no way that I can have parnasa if I do this and that. When Yidden came to America in the early 1900s or the late 1800s, but especially when they came in the 1900s, Yidden unfortunately came to America and they said, here we cannot keep Shabbos because there's no way you can survive as a Jew and have a job if you don't work on Shabbos. When you don't even see these people around anymore, but the older Jews from those days, when they would talk about a frum Jew, they didn't say he's religious or frum, they would say he's Shomer Shabbos. That was the symbol of a religious Jew, because either they kept Shabbos or not. And the assumption was if you're going to keep Shabbos, you'll never get a job. No one's going to hire you because you have to come in every day on Shabbos to work as well. But if a Yid believes that it's all Hashem, then if it's going to be a clash between Hashem and Teva, I'll go by Hashem, not by Teva, because I believe that even Teva, it's only because of Hashem. But if a person really feels that Teva, nature, plays a big part, like it's almost like they're partners, then I can't let go. If according to nature, I'm going to lose out. So that's also another example of bittul b'mitzvahs, a bittul hayesh. Whether I see that the order of nature and the laws of nature really carry weight, but Hashem is higher, Hashem is greater, Hashem is stronger. Where I believe there's nothing else but Hashem, and even things that happen in nature is all from Hashem. In reference to this definition of echad, that it means there's 8 things and 4 things: the world, the heaven, earth, which is space. There's a pasuk where it says, "Yesh echad ve'ein sheni." There is a echad that there is no second to him. Pirish Hagam ki yesh echad, even though we know that sometimes the word echad could mean echad hamoni, which means number one that's being counted. So there's one and there's two. But when we talk about Hashem, He's one, ain't shaying, there is no other one to Him. So therefore, this word echad is like the word yachid, but it's even deeper. That not only that the world doesn't exist, but the world does exist, and Hashem still is the only one that exists, even with the creation of a world. Yeah.
Another question, do you have a topic that doesn't end here?
What did you have the book?
Oh, you had given us topics and it looks like some of them keep going through the book and some of them don't.
Let me see where this one is. What's the last page here?
47.
And you don't have that
Oh, no, not, what's the last page you guys?
in the book,
49.
in the minor part.
49. I think the page.
Mine ends in 47.
No, the minor ended 30. Oh, you,
Just-
oh, you really don't have the end, right? Well, this has everything. This has take this, but then you have to rewrite all your notes.
Oh, no.
You don't have to do that. You can just restaple it and be just fine.
No, thank you. Do you mind if I take this?
No, you have a staple remover in the office, take out the staple, insert these sheets, and you'll have the.
Oh,
Yeah, that's the way you do it. I'll tell them. If you can do miracles, you just say a certain word and everything will change. Okay, let's conclude. Raknemar Echad, but the reason, so why does it say Echad, not Yochid, which would imply that Hashem is the only one? But they sheyuban, so we should understand the depth of it, and this should allude to the deeper meaning that even though that there is a creation of 7 heavens, when you say 7 heavens and the earth and the four, it basically means time and space, because that's what defines the physical world, the realm of time and the realm of space. So even though they are created and they're true creations, because that's what it says in the Torah, nevertheless, they are bottled to the Aleph. Who is the Aleph? That's Hashem. Aleph also means, besides the fact that Aleph is one, Hashem is number one, it also has the meaning of Aluf. Aluf means the commander or the leader. Aluf Shalayla, the commander and the master of the world. Hamachaya or Mahave Kolan Avrahim, page 77. So now we understand there's no room for this notion of shituf, because shituf means, a partner would mean that Hashem delegates some degree of authority to angels, to nature, and that would be shituf. That would be a subtle form of avodah zarah. So if a person believes that angels are in charge of something, that's why according to Torah, you're not allowed to pray to an angel. In other words, I know that the angel Gabriel is in charge of fire. And God forbid there's a fire burning, so I'm praying, Gabriel, please stop the fire. That would be avodah zarah. But I'm not worshiping an idol. I'm praying to an angel, which is a good angel, a godly angel. But by praying to an angel, stop the fire, I'm implying that this angel has independent choices to make outside of Hashem's command. But really, the angel is nothing but Hashem's tells him what to do. And again, like the mashal that's given, that if a king does something with his right hand and then does something with his left hand, there's no difference. This is the same king doing it, but here he does with his right hand, and here he does with his left hand. When Hashem does something which is chesed, that it's raining in the world, and does that through the angel of Michael, that's Hashem doing something with the right hand. When Hashem wants a fire and sends Gabriel, he's doing something with his left hand, which basically means that it's all Hashem, and the angels are just there to do what Hashem's will. They don't have any will or any choice that's independent of their own. The only ones who have independent choice. It's all not, also not a contradiction, but the only one that Hashem created that can have any kind of independent choice are humans. Not animals and not angels have any kind of independence in making choices. Whatever they do is they're being led by Hashem. So that's why we use the muscle sometimes of the axe. That if somebody builds a house with an axe, with a hammer, or some other tool, nobody would walk over and compliment the tool because the tool doesn't do anything. It's the person that does it. And that's what angels are. And the same is with nature and all the laws of nature. And therefore, I don't let these things get into my way. And I realize it's all Hashem, whatever is happening. Even though a person is doing it, even though the weather is doing it, even though some other natural cause is causing it, I really realize, no, it's Hashem doing it through this medium. Okay. To be continued.